Good morning and Happy New Year. I'm Rosalie Schaefer, and on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Manatee County, I welcome you to our program today. Today we are going to talk about charter schools. A lot of people don't really know much about charters, and we thought since they're growing so quickly in the state of Florida, it would be a good time to hold a program about them. They are a growing part of the educational choices in Manatee County and the state, offering focused programs and innovative learning opportunities. Since 1996, the number of charter schools in Florida has grown to over 650, enrolling over 270,000 students. While the Department of Education website shows 22 in Manatee County, I have learned today that we really only have 11. So I'm not sure what those other schools are, but they may be some other type of alternative school. They have Hillsborough County down as having 90 charter schools. How do charter schools differ from standard public schools and from each other? What rules must they follow? And what public funding do they receive? But it's not easy to start a school. Some charters do very well, but not all of them succeed. What are the risks and what happens if they fail? Our guests will help us understand more about charters today. We are very pleased to have with us today Cynthia Saunders, Deputy Superintendent of Instructional Services for Manatee County School District, who will give an overview of charter schools in our county, followed by a moderated panel discussion among representatives from 4 different charter schools at various stages of growth, development, and renewal. Terrence Devine, Assistant Principal, Manatee School for the Arts and Science. Kimberly Penman, Principal, Rowlett Academy for Arts and Communication. Becky Kness, CEO of former Just for Girls. And Neil Phillips, CEO, Visible Men Academy. Time available following their discussion, we will have questions from the audience. Okay, we're going to start with Cynthia, and she's going to tell us all about charter schools.
We have many options for students. I don't know if you also over the break read in the newspaper about our graduation rate, which is now exceeding the state average at over 83 percentage points. But one thing that I mentioned was that we give students a lot of options, and that's what charter schools are also giving our students. They are part of the K-12 public school system, so their rules and regulations are just like ours as well. They have to pass the same number of credits, meet the same 3rd grade requirement for promotion, ensure the right number of GPA and test scores. So they're ruled to the same governance that we are in that regard. They're just not under the district overview of how they're delivering those services. We have very individual charter schools, some of which are part of a larger corporation that are listed in other districts in the state of Florida, and some are just individual ones just serving a population in Manatee County. But they still have to follow the state rules and regulations. They're just not under the supervision of the board. We're their sponsoring agency, we have to make sure each year that they're in compliance physically as well as academically. But other than that, how they go about their day-to-day operation is set by the charter and their board. And we just adhere to their contract, and the board approves or disapproves those that come in. At this point in time, we have 11 existing charters, with Rowlett Middle coming on board in the future. It's already been approved. It's just not existing with middle school students at this time. And maybe some of the things that Rosalie was referencing, we have a number of alternative programs too, but they're not charter schools, so that's a little bit different. Contracted sites or ESE centers that are serving a different need or a different population of students. But in terms of charter, we only have 11 existing ones today. And they range, the majority of ours are elementary, but we do have some K-8, and we do have 2 that focus on high school or 6-12 continuations. So we are a growing district. The projection we have for this coming year will be starting out at almost 49,000 students. So we know our population is only going to increase. We are planning, as you know, to build a high school and possibly an elementary and middle in the very near future. So we are growing, we are expanding, and we need to make sure that we're offering all the different opportunities for our students to be successful.
Before we let you go here, we want to talk about money. What money do they get from the public coffers?
They get the same financial support that any regular traditional school does. Predominantly, the bulk of their funding will come from FTE, or the numbers of students that attend. The state funding that goes with those students will go to those charter schools or contracted sites, etc. In addition to that, if they are a Title I school, then they would qualify for those additional fundings. They receive the reading allocation or the textbook allocation and all of those services as well. So what goes with the child is what funding goes to that school. But their predominant funding comes from FTE. In addition, their charter or their corporation could also have additional dollars or fundraising monies that are coming into those schools, but that's not governed by the district. We're just allocating what's spelled out within statute, which is very clear, but their bulk of their money is coming from however many students attend. What the state allocates for FTE is what they receive. FTE. Yeah, full-time equivalency funding source. For the most part, that's what the bulk of our revenue is generated from. Each year, the state, in terms of their budget, will allocate what an individual student receives for the state funding. So they are paid, if those students aren't in our traditional lot, those dollars come into the state, and then we generate those to the charter schools that qualify. Mm-hmm. And it changes each year, but the state sets what those dollars are.
Okay. Well, to start things off then for the rest of the panel, we'd like to hear a bit about your charter school, such as when and how it was formed, its organizational structure, and what makes your school special, different from public schools and other charters. And we'll start from this end this time, and the next question will start from the other end and alternate.
So starting with me?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Terry Devine. I'm assistant principal at Manatee School for the Arts. We are right across the bridge in Palmetto. We're by the Manatee Civic Center on Haven Boulevard. We are a K through 6, no, 6 through 12 school. And we service students from all throughout Manatee County. We also have students who come to our school from Pinellas, Hillsborough, and Sarasota counties. So the students being able to choose in the public school sector that Ms. Saunders talked about, we've been doing that for quite a while. We've been allowed to do that as a charter school. So our numbers are mostly from Manatee County. We provide busing all throughout Manatee County to our students, and then the students who are outside of the county get their own rides into school. So this is our 19th year of being in charters, having our school, Manatee School for the Arts. This is the 20th year of charter schools in the state of Florida. So we were one of the first 20 charter schools in the state. And as Rosalie said, there are over 650 now in the state of Florida. We go to a charter school conference every year, and even in my 9 years there, I've seen it, grow, almost double in size. So it's an interesting and a neat time to grow. We started in 1998 with 250 students in grades 7 and 8. And this year we opened, 6 and 7. This year we opened with grade 7. We've had grade 7 through 12 with over 2,000 students, over 2,100 students. So the growth has been amazing. We're accredited by Advanced Ed, which is the accreditation program throughout the country, at both the middle school and high school level. Two other quick facts before I get into, this year, due to a variety of reasons, we were a B-rated school by the state of Florida. And our graduation rate this past year is 99%. So we're very proud of that. What makes us different? That's the first question I was given for this presentation. If I run long on time, you give me the hook, okay? I talk too much. A charter school's job, if you will, is to provide education to students in a different way, to provide them a different avenue for learning. And how do we do that? We provide a different avenue by using the arts, as implied in our name. We use the arts in the classroom. We use the arts in the electives, in the academics. We subscribe heavily to using the multiple intelligence theory of Howard Gardner's, which states that students learn through different avenues of learning, different ways, whether it be theater, dance, music, art, math, reading. And we start in 6th grade and we identify those strengths for the students. We also use the Myers-Briggs personality type indicator test, which also gives us a lot of information about the students and how they learn. Some of the things that we do, like I said, we find out how they like to learn, and we like to meet them where they are, and reach out to them and find if they learn through movement, let's find a way to teach them through movement. Teachers work, whether it's regular multiplication or memorization of using the arts, to projects, and they really try to connect the arts interest. All of our electives are arts-based. We have programs in dance, theater, music, visual art, and digital art. And our students can go anywhere from they're interested in it, they enjoy it, they want to learn about that art, to going from pursuing it professionally. Several students, and I'll get to that in a minute, try to keep my notes and keep myself in line here. And our students at the school, there's a big performance culture at the school. So whenever there's a microphone, they like to grab it and perform. So what else do I have here? Why the arts? That's the question that comes up a lot. In the first thing is that students through the arts use the skills that they learn in the arts no matter what they do in life. Do we expect students that come to our program to go into an arts profession? No. But we want to teach them at a high level. We want to help them to achieve that. If that is their goal, to go on into the arts at a professional level, we will get them there. We'll work with them, we'll support them, we'll get them to where they want to go. but we don't, they are successful when they leave the school and they do something with their lives. And the art skill. Time? You got me? Okay. I could go on for a long time, but being able to get the students the education they need through the arts, and how we go about doing that is our goal and mission. So I've got the hook, I'll pass it along.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I
Here.
think we're using it.
I'll just pass that one right down.
We'll just share it this way. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kim Penman. I'm the current principal at Rowlett Academy. And Rowlett Academy has many of the things that Mr. Devine shared about the arts, but Rowlett's path to becoming a charter was a little bit different. In the year 2000, Rowlett Elementary School opened as a district magnet school focusing on the arts for students. And the reason why Mr. Flynn and his team chose the arts at that time was because they felt that and believe that the arts educate the whole child. And that is at the foundation of who we still are today, that through the arts we can educate the whole child. So from the year 2000 through the year 2000 and the spring of 2014, Rowlett Elementary School existed as a district school. In the year 2013-14, the school district had gone through some difficult times financially, and the parents at our school, who are very vocal, which we're grateful for, were a little nervous that the programs might be discontinued and the school would not be able to operate as it had been. So at that time, the parents helped lead the process to become a conversion charter school. So we were the first approved conversion charter school in the state of Florida. The last one had been 8 years prior, McKeel Academy in Polk County. So for the last 3 years, we have been working as a charter school, and we, as Dr. Saunders said, we continue to be accountable in the same way that the district schools are accountable in terms of testing for FSA. We use the Florida core curriculum, but we have the ability and the flexibility to deliver it how we choose. And we also use an integrated arts program, which allows us to use drama and music and art. And we've also partnered with the University of South Florida to bring that integration into the classroom. Recently, we became a lighthouse school for the Stephen Covey organization, and if you're familiar with the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, there is a program called The Leader in Me for students. And in 2015, we began that process and became a Leader in Me school, where we believe that all students can set goals and they can achieve them. And we start with goals that are based on academic and personal goals. And so our students work with their teachers side by side to create academic and personal goals, and they learn how to track their goals and move towards their success. So we're teaching them at a young age how to monitor their data, look at their strategies, and how to build a successful academic goal. We also work with the arts and use the arts in the classroom, and the arts teachers and our grade level teachers work together collaboratively in planning daily classroom instruction that incorporates the arts, whether it be a visual art or a song or music, so that we can indeed educate the whole child. We have a very active, what we call Rowlett Family Association, which you might know as a PTA, but we function as individual groups within the RFA. Some are focused on fundraising, and some are focused on community awareness and helping the students work with their parents and learning how to give back. So we have organizations on campus such as Family Helping Families that help families who are facing difficult times. We also have organizations on campus that help just have a good time, family nights out. Rowlett's socioeconomic groups and our diversity is very large, so we have a large diverse need on our campus among our students and the families. But we have been very blessed by an active group that helps us raise money for programs and now purchasing some different items around the school. We recently were able to add some things to our playground because of what the parents did in financially raising money. Okay. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Neil Phillips, and I am one of the co-founders and current CEO and principal of Visible Men Academy. We are in the Pride Park community of Bradenton. We are in our 4th year. We are an all-boys school, currently serving kindergarten through 6th grade, and our charter has us climbing our way to 8th grade, so we'll be a kindergarten through 8th grade school. We exist to combat what we consider to be a humanitarian crisis across our country, and unfortunately not a new one, and that is the underachievement of boys from poor family backgrounds in America. Many of these boys are black boys. We have slightly over 50% of our student enrollment are black boys. We have close to, it's almost 45% are Latino boys, and then the rest are white boys. The commonality for us is poverty. Every single one of our families qualifies for free and reduced meals. So we are a fully Title I school. And we're convinced that we can get more out of these boys than they have been showing in traditional public school environments for decades. And the crisis is not, it's not solely here in the state of Florida, it's not solely here in Manatee County, unfortunately, it's nationwide. And when you look at the graduation rate, the high school graduation rate for black boys is below 50% in our country. And when you isolate black boys in poverty, it drops even lower. For Latino boys, it's climbing, which is great news, but it's still hovering around that 50% rate. And we just think that that's literally unacceptable as a country with the resources that we have. So to Terry's point, we believe that we've got to deliver a different school experience in order to get different results. That if we continue to try the same traditional schooling environment for some of our boys, that we're just doomed to get the same results. And so we exist to try and do things differently. One of the things we do differently is we have a significant emphasis on character and social development. We really, really believe that part of the crisis stems from the fact that so many boys from our demographic lack self-worth from the moment they walk into our school building as very, very young children. And they have challenging upbringings. They come already behind, right? We start in kindergarten, and when we test, do baseline testing, as soon as our kindergartners walk in the door, we see that they're already significantly behind. So we have to find out, how do we catch them up? And we have come to the conclusion that there's no way around having an emphasis on our boys feeling their value as human beings. Long before we can get to curriculum and exciting programs and significant proficiency gains, we have to get to our boys the message that they matter. There are too many things in our society that indicate otherwise, and we need our boys to feel a real strong sense of self. We also need our boys to understand that they have control in their lives. So many of them come to us feeling victimized. They feel like things are happening to them that are beyond their control. And we need our boys to understand that, well, that's part of life, but the other part of life for those people who are successful by any measure is that they own what happens to them and they recognize that they can control the outcomes in their life. So we have to spend a lot of time working with our boys and families on those things. And as those things start to emerge, then we have boys who are ready to learn. Then we have boys who start to feel a very strong attachment to school, which is also one of our goals, as simplistic as it sounds. We see dropouts happening at the high school age, but too often the psychological dropout is happening far, far earlier than that. Even at the elementary school age, that boys from our demographic are making the decision that school is not for them. They're behind in class, they're having behavioral issues, they feel disconnected from the environment, and we exist to try to disrupt that and offer a different school environment in order to try to change the trajectory of these boys' lives. The last thing I'll say, time? Thank you. The last thing I will say is that our emphasis on character and social development does a number of things for our boys. One, it helps provide them with what we attach to our core values, are an acronym SHINE, which is selflessness, honesty, integrity, niceness, and excellence. And we believe that the attachment to those things helps our boys feel a sense of control over the outcomes in their lives. There's a whole lot more I could say too. I'll hope some questions are asked. Thank you.
Let's see if I can do this here. I think I speak for all of us in thanking the League of Women Voters for hosting this important discussion about educational choices here today. And we want to thank the League of Women Voters also for what you do to educate and register our voters. And when you look at an important election like we just had, and nearly half of registered voters choosing not to vote, you can identify the issue that drives what we need to have happen in education. Apathy is one of the issues that Just for Girls took a look at when we decided a long time ago, in fact 1969, some of the same women in League of Women Voters who were starting this organization were also starting Just for Girls. We are 48 years old this year, and we have used data like that to drive the decisions that we make to develop the programs that we're having. And the opposite of apathy is empathy, and our programs are wrapped in empathy building and teaching methods. We want these students to care about themselves. We want them to care about their school, their community, their country, and their nation. One of the other driving data indicators that we're looking at is the amount of poverty among the women who are the single-parent households. And there are generations of poverty and learned helplessness among these single-parent women and their children. Countries and organizations worldwide have been studying poverty, and we're finding that when women are equipped with rights and are involved in decisions, the economy improves and poverty improves. There's also a significant link to reduced violence in countries, communities, schools even, when women have a leadership role and are involved. Women tend to spend their money on their families, and that is the indicator that is going to give us promise for the next generations that follow to finally begin to break these cycles of poverty among women and their children. The programs that we developed 48 years ago started out with cooking and sewing, basic life skills kinds of classes, and emerged into technology. And now we're doing a lot of prevention, pregnancy prevention, school dropout prevention, which is what we've done in moving into more educational developmental programs. In looking at the families that we serve in our 3 centers in Manatee County, we do serve a high number of minority racial groups. We have about 1/3 of them who are Hispanic, and they struggle in education because they're English language learners. And like we see at Visible Men Academy, they come to us very, very far behind. There is a link between poverty and educational achievement and the struggles that they have. Just for Girls Academy was started 4 years ago, and we were serving 100% Title I eligible. That means they meet the poverty guidelines that are required for eligibility. And some of our girls are extremely impoverished. We are now also doing alternative education. We've transitioned this year into a contracted site. We've been in a partnership with the school district for about 24 years with alternative education. We have seen such success there. We were recognized by the United States Department of Education and the United States Department of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention for the achievements in turning around changes in attitudes, behavior, and academics. We have a lot of charts and a lot of data. I brought our annual reports with me. They're on the table at the front there. And I would invite all of you to take those. You can see the numbers more clearly. These awards were given to us to shine a light on what we do so that communities across our country can replicate this kind of success and help these girls graduate, help them wait until they're married to become pregnant and start a family, help them make decisions that will give them a brighter future. Other awards that we received in our charter school include, we were the second highest attendance. If you want to improve academic achievement, you've got to get them there. And children who are in single-parent households struggle with a lot of challenges just getting to school. If the parent is sick, they don't come. If the child is sick, they don't come. If they can't pay their rent, they're moving, trying to survive. And so we were thrilled to see that our 82% attendance was the second highest in the entire district last year. And this year it's at 92%. So attendance, behavior, we received a Model School Award as well. And I want to thank Cynthia Saunders and under Dr. Diana Green for the partnership that we've enjoyed in offering a choice to the girls that we serve to help them achieve their full potential.
Before our next question, I would like to recognize another charter school with representatives here today, Team Success, and give them a couple minutes to say something about their school at the microphone on the floor. Anyone here will? No. Yes, they didn't stay. Okay, well, we'll go on to our next question then. What are the biggest challenges that charter schools face in the current school environment? What are the biggest challenges? And starting from the other end.
I talked a little bit about the parents. We have developed some parent resources that are helping these parents, many of them English language learners. We're opening up a computer learning center for the parents to come in and access English language learning programs and learning technology to help them get better job skills. Some of the challenges that we've had are when the students we serve come to us so far behind any other students, and helping them get caught up from that learning slide that they've experienced in their lives. We have to do a lot more support and wraparound services. The length of school day is longer at Just for Girls. We just started Scholastic Saturdays to help them, and they love school. We have before and after school programs, and then the parent support initiatives have been extremely important to address those kinds of challenges that our students are facing.
I'm sorry? 2 minutes. I wish you hadn't have told me that. Now I'm wasting some of my 2 minutes thinking how to... Exactly, thank you. So the biggest challenge we face as a charter school is what is a very limited view on how to define success. We have taken the Florida Standards Assessment test, and our students have not done well. Our boys have not performed well over the last 2 years. We received an F grade, which is what we're currently sitting on. That's problematic for us on a lot of levels. One is that we want our boys to do well on the FSA, and we're working really, really hard to ensure that that happens this time around. So we're confident about that, that they're going to improve. With that said, we exist for reasons far beyond any standardized test that you can give. We exist to disrupt a cycle of futility that's plaguing our country. And we think we're doing some really good things around that. We think that our boys are demonstrating success in a lot of different ways, including academic proficiency gains by many of the other measures that we use, be it classroom assessments, be it diagnostic testing. And so we're hoping that's going to translate into some FSA success. We're working really hard. We also know that our boys are growing, and they're growing in all the ways that we as community members would want to see. So we're eager for some other ways to define success. We're eager for what we consider more responsible language. We don't believe that an FSA grade should be referred to as a school grade. No one's coming to our school to sort of see all of the other aspects about our school, our attendance, our creative responses to behavioral transgression, just a lot of different things. So we'd like to see the definition of success be broadened in the ways that we all know really matter.
I would have to agree with the things that were mentioned. Rowlett has a very diverse population, and so we too struggle to meet how to get kids to school on time and how to meet the needs of families that are not yet speaking English, and to be sure that those students are being exposed to language and experiences that are going to help them become more successful in what we deem as the FSA. But life is a lot more than the FSA, and we strive as well to give children a well-rounded approach to education and a well-rounded approach to what it takes to be successful in life, and not just talk about like 21st century learning strategies and skills, but what does that really look like, and how do we help the students learn what at an early age to love learning and to embrace risk-taking so that they can be successful as they move forward and not become discouraged. So I think, as you both have mentioned, those are daily struggles that we all face as educators in helping our students embrace what it takes to be successful in the future.
I agree 100% with everybody else, and thank you. One of the things I want to bring up is funding. Funding is always a challenge for all of us. Being that Florida is either 49th or 50th in state funding of education in the country. Depends on how Alabama feels that year. So it goes back and forth. But number one across the board, if we could get our legislators to realize that our their constitutional responsibility is to fund education fully. I don't think any of us would agree that they're funding education fully. There's so much more that we could do. Additionally, there are other fundings. Although Ms. Saunders was right, we do get the full FTE equivalent per student, but there are other funding sources that we do not get equal funding on. Your tax money that you pay on your property, we don't get that funding at all. Charter school, that money goes to the district, and if parents choose to send their children to charter schools, that money stays with the district. We don't get that funding for capital outlay. We do receive some money. It's called PICO funds. You've probably heard about the PICO funds, and that's a pool of money that the state puts aside for charter schools, community colleges, et cetera. And that's a pool that hasn't grown, but the pieces of pie are getting sliced up more and more, so that's a smaller pool. For example, in the early 2000s, we got about 3 times as much capital outlay from the state than we did this year. And our student population is about, well, twice as big at least. So funding is always a challenge. I will give the district a thank you for working with us on the sales tax money that just passed, and we've come to an agreement to share that money in an equitable way. So we do appreciate that support from the district. The other area that funding is a challenge for us is in our ESE funding, our special needs students. Where the state gives a guaranteed allocation, which is about $2,400 per student, but the charter schools at the middle school, I don't know about the elementary level, middle school level, the charter schools get, the state has given $2,400. We get $1,050 for a middle school student and $875 for a high school student. So we don't get equitable funding in that way. So, of course, all of those things with the funding that put together is opportunities for the students. Of course, with more resources across the board, district school, charter school, if we have more resources, we have more opportunity to provide a richer education for students. And we can meet all of the things and all of the regular challenges that we have.
In fact, my next question was going to be about funding, so you've answered it. So
Okay.
if the others could talk about money, how do you make ends meet? What do you need? How do you manage? What needs to change?
As a conversion charter school, our formula is a little bit different than a traditional charter school in the fact that we receive our full FTE amount from the state, and we're also eligible for the monies that are that come through the district for the reading programs and textbook funds and things like that. But we also are, in our building, we pay 5% back to the district as part of an administrative fee. And because we're a conversion charter school, the school district is still responsible to take care of the larger needs of our school building and grounds that may come up. So for us, the economic challenges may not be quite the same as they are for a regular charter school, and we work in partnership with the district to care for our property, and that's probably one of the biggest expenses that I can see that a charter school, it would be a very financial burden at times to care for the property itself. So, thank you. Makes our job easier.
So we have the per pupil allocation is our primary funding source. With that said, we have a gap to close. The program we deliver costs us more to deliver than the FTE funding provides. So to close that gap, we pursue and engage in traditional fundraising means. We rely heavily on individual donors. We seek foundation grants locally, regionally, nationally. We have in the past received some federal government funding as part of a state program, charter school program here in the state of Florida. So it's a constant challenge figuring out how to close that gap. In addition, we've made a very deliberate decision, which we think is the right decision, to really manage our enrollment and to grow slowly. This year we didn't grow at all from last year, again, intentionally, because we wanted to focus on the service we provide. We consider ourselves a high-touch school, which means that it really wouldn't suit us to go out to try to double our enrollment overnight. It would really help us financially, but it would compromise our program in ways that we're not willing to compromise. So we face the same challenges in terms of closing that gap that everyone has alluded to.
We measure levels of effort, which is the number of students that participate, and we are a small school. We've got 84 students in our elementary and about 48 in our middle school. These are alternative education programs this year. Last year, our charter school had 107. And when you measure that level of effort, then you also measure the effectiveness, which I spoke to earlier about the progress that we're achieving. And the third measure is efficiency. It's true, there is not enough money to support education, and we have to find other sources and become more efficient. We have looked inward to see where we can save costs. One of the ways that we do that at Just for Girls is by sharing our facilities. We own our facilities and have owned them for all the decades that we've been in existence, and to bring in these schools allows us to share this space among these different programs. That brings down the cost of the overhead or the fixed expense. We're also able to share the administration, the executive leadership, which is my role, and then finance and accounting and management and support, insurance. Those are all shared among our large organization that collectively serves over 600 children in the community in 3 different locations. And when we can share these administrative and overhead expenses, the cost per student for that indirect piece of their educational dollar is much, much less. That puts more of the educational dollars into the services and the education for these students. And when you invest more of those dollars into their education, I mentioned time earlier as one of the approaches we use, and using an efficiency method so that the direct service dollars are going toward these students. That's another way to assure greater progress, that we're investing in them to the greatest extent possible.
I'd like to see if Ms. Saunders would like to add something on funding. Does the funding for charter schools take away from the public schools?
I'm not sure that you could equate it in that regard. The funding is for the students, and where the students are attending is where their FTE is going. We have a little more than 6,400 students that attend charter schools out of the 11, and I don't think there's one person in education that would say we all have enough money. Whether it's traditional, charter, alternative, funding is always the challenge for everyone, which is why we went out for the referendum for the half-cent sales tax. Because without that, as mentioned earlier about the capital funds, the traditional schools haven't even received the PICO dollars in the last few years. The state has really cut back drastically on capital funding. So it's a challenge for all of us, as how do you maximize your dollars to make sure that you're doing the best with today's society in terms of facility and educational practice, personnel, insurance. They're all challenges for each of us. The advantage the traditional schools have is we have a lot of schools. So when you pull a lot of schools together, it generates a lot of funding. You have a little bit more leeway on how you move those resources around. Some charter schools are part of a corporation, a larger company, so they end up receiving funding from that larger source. In many of these instances, these are just individual sites here in Manatee County. It's not part of a larger corporation where they're rolling out charters in other counties. So it is challenging. It is a struggle. The academic part is the same for both of us. Because we're all part of the K-12 public education. So the academic standards are very clear. And the way the state measures the charter schools and holds them accountable as well as traditional are very clear. 2 F's and its closure. Schools that are perpetual DNF for a long period of time, whether they're traditional or charter, they're required to have a complete turnaround and rechange or allocation of the building and the school. The state is very clear. So we all have to be academically solvent as well as financially solvent, or we're in jeopardy regardless if it's traditional or charter. But the funding does not take away from the traditional schools for charter. The dollars do go with those students to help support and financially have those schools prosper, as well they should. The dollars are, the FTE goes with the kids.
Thank you. And speaking of misconceptions, here's one. A common viewpoint is that charters can cherry pick their students. They can pick the best from their applicants and leaving the slower or special needs students for the public schools. Is that happening, or are parents of advanced students simply more likely to choose a charter?
I'm not sure that I would say that that's factual. We do have very strict guidelines written in our choice process for the district. It pertains to traditional as well as charter. But students that do apply to charter, the charter has to agree to take them. And then once they process their application, it's sent into the district office for placement. So they each have their own individual process. Can they choose to deny a student entry? Yes, but so can any of our schools of choice. If they're not traditionally zoned for a specific school and they're applying for choice for another location, there is a process for that. So they can be denied access into any of the schools. So, and then once they're enrolled in charter, there is a process for them to be withdrawn. So the guidelines are set by the district. I wouldn't say that they're cherry picking their applicants.
Okay, could
I would want to think not.
Could each of our charters talk about their process for admitting students, accepting students?
Sure. At our school, again, we're 6 through 12, but our admissions process is slightly different. Our middle school is open enrollment. Any student who applies can come to our school based on seats. We have a certain number of seats. We fill those seats, and then we have a waiting list after that point. Our high school is a little bit different, but not much. Our high schoolers, even our students who have gone 6th, 7th, 8th grade at our school, also they have to apply for the high school, they have to write an essay, they have to interview, and students who come in from outside of the school have to audition as well. And what we're looking for is a student's desire to learn in the arts, because we're so arts heavy. They have to have an initiative to learn through that process. But if they want to come, if they've made the decision, they've made the commitment, we accept the students. Again, based on seats. As long as we have room for them, we get them in. And then, of course, if we don't have room, we do hold and have waiting lists, because students ebb and flow every year. So there you go.
Rowlett Academy just completed a 2-year grant with the federal government, the CSP grant, the state, and through that process we were 100% lottery, and that just means that we have a process, a period of time coming up now in February where we offer tours and we offer nightly open houses so that parents and families that are interested in our school can come and visit and see it in action. And then there is just the process of attending one of these open houses or coming to visit the school to see if it's a fit for their child. And then we do fill our seats, but we also, once a year, hold a lottery for open seats that are available.
Thank you, Kim. I don't even know how to think about this idea of cherry picking. All I can tell you is that we don't do it. We've been admonished over the years by the school district for doing just the opposite, for having boys in our school boys in our school who probably, needed more services than we were equipped to provide, and that were at our school. And so that just doesn't apply. And it speaks to a broader issue, which I'll take a little bit to speak on. We find ourselves very often as a country, and this recent election is a perfect example, we classify ourselves, you're this, you're that, you're pro-charter, you're anti-charter, you're pro, and it seems to me to be a waste of energy. And that what we really all need to be is pro-great schools. And in a country who is built on this idea of choice, on this idea of providing and empowering people to make a choice that suits their interests and their needs best, we should be encouraging that in education. And it is possible to be pro-charter. I am pro-charter, and pro-traditional public school. I am pro-traditional public school as well. I just think we should have both. Both can flourish. I believe in independent schools. I believe in parochial schools, as long as they're serving the needs that we know that our children and our family need.
We still have some space available in our middle alternative education program, and we've got some spots available in the elementary program. And we are enrolling now. What we do, and what Neil Phillips does at Visible Men Academy, is look at the science for gender-specific education. They have targeted boys and we have targeted girls. There is a wealth of research that shows that students at this age do better in a gender-specific learning environment. And both Visible Men Academy and Just for Girls are seeing predominantly struggling, impoverished learners. We've got some gifted students, and we don't specify. Any girl K through 8 can enroll at Just for Girls. We have about 20% of them are exceptional student education, ESE, and a larger proportion are ESOL, or English speakers of other languages. We have a lot of individualized attention for every student that enrolls, and we'll take any student that wants to be with us, that's ready to let us target the needs that they have with the approaches that we can provide.
Can I add one thing? Can I add one thing? May I make one more comment?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I think that for us being a kind of a K-5 charter school, in order to maintain our diversity, which is very important to us, we do a lot of outreach in the community to the Hispanic families of our neighborhood, and just trying to reach out so that we are sure that we can maintain the diversity. Because as you said, sometimes it's like the parents who are educated and are making choices, we want to make our school available to all families so that they can all take advantage of that. And I would imagine that for other charter schools, not necessarily yours, but for one like ours, that is a challenge to make sure that you're reaching into the community to get that diverse response that you're looking for.
Thank you. And a quick rundown on your view of school standardized testing. How is it working and what needs to change?
I get to go first. If I could, piggyback on what Neil was saying, is that the test is a snapshot. I talk to parents about this all the time. It's a snapshot of a student one day, whether that student had the flu that day, or broke up with her boyfriend, or whatever else is going on in that child's life. And then we're judged on that one day. But we're not looking at the whole child, and what is the child gaining. It's a method. It's a way of seeing kids, and I don't think anybody is a big fan of standardized testing, the way it's used in the state of Florida. I believe in testing. I believe in evaluating students and knowing where they are and how they're performing. But the way that it's used and it's turned into a political manipulative is really a problem with the way it's been used in the state of Florida. So I could go for a lot more testing, but don't say that too loud. Used right.
Used right. I also believe what Terry's saying would go along with that. And another piece is with a young child that you're testing, so it's more than just are they in a math problem, it's more can they do the math computation, but it also it entails their ability to read and understand the math problem. And a new level of that is technology. Younger and younger, we're adding the technology component for children to be able to use the computer successfully to take the test. And I don't know that that's fair. I'm not sure that we're testing what they know as much as we're beginning to test a process.
Yeah, I agree with both Terry and Kim, and to be clear, I'm a big believer in the value of standards. I think in their purest form, the idea of standards really are to be an equalizer. We believe students should be at a certain standard, and that's every student, so I'm really supportive of that. My feeling is the same as Terry communicated. We think that there's a role for testing. We think it's a valuable role. We just think that it's carrying too much weight in terms of stifling some of the creativity that is absolutely necessary for us to find some solutions to these problems that have been plaguing us for decades and decades. And that, to us, just carries too much weight.
It is important for us to measure how we're doing so that we know what we need to do better. there is proficiency, progress, and pacing guides that are being used right now. And in proficiency, there's a relationship between poverty and proficiency because of a wealth of resources outside of the school that are challenging those students. Excuse me. And when you see these students with proficiency years behind their counterparts, then we want to look at their progress. And what we've seen at Just for Girls is that the progress is exceeding or outperforming the district in a number of the benchmarks for progress. And the school grade for a long time was measuring proficiency and just recently started to recognize the importance of progress. And the formulas are still, I think, in their early stages. We need more time for some students. That brings us to the pacing. The pacing guides for struggling learners, there's no hope for a fifth grader who has a second grade level that they're going to be able to pace along at the same level as the other fifth grade level students. We do more repetition when they're struggling. We go back and pick it up and make sure that they've got these solid fundamentals, a foundation for learning, like a scaffold that we can then build upon. And then you see the pacing start to pick up. And I'm afraid that the bureaucrats in Tallahassee, and this is true throughout the nation, are too far removed from what's happening in the classroom to really understand the personal and individual needs of these students. They are being tested too often, and it's a distraction to our opportunity to teach. So we need to test, we need to measure. We don't need to be so obsessive about it like we are now, and we don't need to be so punitive about it like we are now. We need to take a solid look at what's working, what's not working, and why it's not working. We're at our mid-year assessments at Just for Girls, and I'm asking, tell me, we had some great attendance, some wonderful behavior, and some real wins academically, and then certain areas, you could see some shifts. Last year, that meant some of our students moved away, and changes in who's there and being tested as a group. This year, there were some technology glitches that affected their ability to complete the tests as needed. So we'll fix that, and you'll see at the end of the year our ability then to address anything that's going to impact those scores.
Okay, thank you. I'm finished asking questions, and now it's up to the audience. We've been getting permission to go over our hour, so if everyone can stay with us, we can have questions from the audience. At that point, could you use the microphone on the floor, state your name and your question. And you can also direct it at any one member of our panel or to all of them. Or
Excellent, thank you. Well, good afternoon. Ms. Schaefer, is it possible that I can avail myself as a representative of Team Success for the 2 minutes you offered us earlier?
Yes.
I think it's appropriate under the circumstances.
Yes, just a minute or so.
While the team wasn't prepared to talk, I couldn't let a forum like this pass without saying a few things about Team Success.
Sure.
Team Success started about 9 years ago. It used to be called the Police Athletic League. It converted to Team Success under the leadership of Fred Spence, who's the CEO. It was a failing school initially. It was an F by what used to be called FCAT standards, now FSA standards. And in 3 years, due to a very good team of dedicated teachers and professionals, the school actually went from an F to an A. Now, it's important to note that Team Success is 99% free and reduced lunch. It is the traditional Title I school. The philosophy of the school centers around focus on academics the way most schools focus on athletics. And in addition to that, the school basically has a slogan that permeates throughout the school, and that's that each one teaches one. So we have children teaching children, if you will, and the teachers become more of a facilitator. The results of that philosophy is that the school currently is a B school by FSA standards. I think the only B Title I school in Manatee County. But equally importantly, the focus on science and math have resulted in Team Success being #1 countywide, not Title I, countywide in mathematics in 6th grade, second countywide in 7th grade mathematics, second countywide in 8th grade mathematics, and second countywide in science. It's important to note that this is a Title I school with 99% of the kids having free and reduced lunch. I think the point that I want to make is when you have dedicated teachers and you can get children to believe in themselves and you can get the teachers to believe in the children, then there are no heights that a school can't achieve, and I think Team Success is a living example of that. And I just couldn't let this forum go without being able to make that point. And I thank certainly all of the panel members, because having been the second retiree as a teacher from Team Success and currently working with them on a volunteer basis and as a consultant, I share the challenges that you have, and I thank you all for participating in the forum. And Ms. Schaefer, I thank you very much for letting me speak on their behalf.
Thank you. Okay, we'll have questions from the audience. Line up at the mic on the side of the room, and please just ask your question to one or more of the panel members.
Thank you. My name is Frank Buskirk. Question to all of you and all of us here today. I'm hearing for the first time of the successes that these individual charter schools are having, and for the life of me, and I've been around the block, I'm an old retired business guy, but I do not know why, if we identify 49,000 students in this community, Manatee County, how many are on free lunch, using that as a free meal program, and I'm paraphrasing here, as a criteria, why the school board and why we do not have a task force with these 5 people sitting on this task force and reinventing our school delivery of education to the needy students, to the students that need special programs, that need individual programs that are tailored, whether it's girls, boys, arts, whoever, that are delivering a program that's going to graduate them at a much higher level, that's going to turn out young citizens who become active, tax-paying citizens in our community, job-holding, more responsible parents. Why we do not, and I guess this is to the audience and to our community, why we don't demand that we think out of the box, we turn ourselves upside down and say, this is what we need to do. We got X amount of dollars, but we can do a far better job of going after the at-risk students and young people in this community. Why we don't do that? And I'll answer back, or tell me why.
Thank you.
Yes, I appreciate that question, and some of you might not be aware, but the district does have a Title I office, and that's what they are charged with. That whole department is charged to give additional resources and supports to those schools of poverty. Now, we have traditional schools and we have charter schools. Remember, part of the umbrella of charter is they receive funding, but they don't have to adhere to all the same strategies and requirements of delivery that the traditional schools do. That's the advantage and really the difference between the traditional and the charter. So how they go about delivering their supports and their curriculum methods is set between their board and their governing body and their staff. But we do have a lot of people, a whole department that does work, and then we have another department of school improvement that does go and try to give some measurement and reports to those that are struggling, that are either charter or traditional. Now we'll have to correct one statement Mr. Veltz made. Blackburn was also a B in their Title I. So just that, yeah, that's good. It's all good, but it is a different platform and a different struggle if you are faced with a school of poverty on how you deliver. And you're right, there needs to be a set kind of framework and repetition, and we have done that in a number of those schools of poverty, even charter, have now adapted some of those same resources, the iReady curriculum, the benchmark test, but that's their choice. The district does not impose, you know, some of those things. It's strongly required,
Well,
though,
Mike-
if they're.
We have people waiting to
Okay, I'm sorry.
ask their question.
One response, please.
Yes.
I guess I'm saying, what I'm asking is, do you believe the school board of Manatee County is doing the very best possible critical thinking and action to solve the problem of educating, more properly educating the children at risk in our community? And that's my question. Thank you.
Well, if it's to me, I would say yes. We are diligently working collectively with all the different agencies to do the very best. As some have already stated, when the state standards change, it does take a little bit of time for everyone to get proficient with the new requirements of graduation and so forth. But yes, we have a great group of people here doing a fabulous job of ensuring that our kids are getting a quality education. And I do believe that giving students choice as to where they attend and how they receive their education is vital to the success of our community.
And I'm going to let you address it, but since the microphone's coming through me, I'm going to steal it first. So I love the question, and more importantly, I love the conviction in your voice. And I think I would differ with Cynthia just in one way. I do think we're doing a good job. Frankly, I don't think we're going far enough. I don't think we're being mindful of being as disruptive as we really need to be. I don't think we're being as experimental as we need to be. I don't think we're taking the risks that we need to be to find answers. I think we're just taking too conservative approach. And I say that about myself as a school leader who has set out to try to be disruptive. I don't think we're going far enough to try to solve some of these really, really perplexing and complex issues. So conviction and boldness is what I think we need more of.
And also the difference between competitive versus collaborative. This school district has been a partner of ours for 24 years, and they originally reached out to us to offer alternative education because they understood the need, our ability to meet that need, and the value in public-private partnerships that can attract additional resources for these greater challenged students.
Okay, next question.
Yes, one thing I want to say, I want to make a statement for the audience to clarify something about charter schools. These people up here have wonderful charter schools. They are non-profit, correct? There are other charter schools in this state which are completely different, and they are for-profit. So when you heard all of those things about cherry picking, that possibly could be true, but that is a for-profit school. It's a huge difference between what you do and what a for-profit school can do. My question is this: you touched upon testing. I'm a huge opponent of massive testing, particularly with very young children. And my question is, since you're underneath the umbrella of the Manatee Public Schools, are you required to administer, I know you do the FSA, but are you required to do the benchmark testing and the iReady testing on your little children, your 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7, 8-year-olds? Are you as we were in the public schools?
I don't teach the little ones, but we're required to do the state-required testings, which are the FSA, the FCATs that are still left, the EOCs. But when it comes to the other progress monitoring, no, that's a district initiative that we don't have to follow. We can choose to follow that if we want. Of course, we monitor our children's performance in every day in every way, but it's not through a strict testing program. And I think I speak for all of us when I
Have you
say
found that
can
that
add-
is an advantage for you? I'm curious. For your students, do you think that's an advantage to not have to subject them to those tests?
Well, I mean, we feel that more time on task in the classroom is to the benefit.
Exactly.
of the students. Again, we monitor our students constantly.
Right.
You know, if that's through an in-class performance, a classroom assessment, student speaking. It's continual, and it's just the way that we go about doing it. The district chooses to do it a different way, which has its data that backs that up as well. So I don't know if anybody else wants to add in.
We've chosen to do the iReady that the district referenced. And one of the reasons that we're doing that is to enable the teachers to see where the students are and adapt the teaching to the needs of the individual students. You can quickly see who's falling behind and get right on top of it right away. So we've got about 45 minutes a day dedicated to iReady for the teachers to evaluate and monitor where these students are every day.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. One more question, then we'll wrap it up.
My name is Veronica Rodriguez, and my question actually was, believe we just didn't get the answer from the district about the FSA testing.
Oh, in my opinion of FSA testing. Well, I can tell you, I've been in education for 28 years. And the state of Florida, after No Child Left Behind came in '01, was like no other state. There aren't other states that require students to take the 10th grade assessment or a high school assessment test and pass it on grade level to receive a high school diploma. No other state has the same accountability system we do. Would I prefer to have such a high stake test? No. But unfortunately, we all work for the Department of Education, and those are the rules that we're bound by. Do I think we need to have a standard and standards that are govern what we're supposed to be delivering and teaching and determine that our students are meeting those? Absolutely. But when you have third grade at such a high stakes that if you don't pass the state assessment at a certain level, you're retained, and for high school that if you do not pass, you're not able to receive a diploma, it makes our jobs very difficult and very challenging, because our job is to ensure that each of our students are productive citizens for the world that they are going to be in as adults. So we all have to figure out how in the best way we can meet those objectives so that our students are successful.
Just a comment on that. I don't believe, and a lot of Manatee parents don't believe that the testing on third grade is really going to show how productive our students is going to be on their lifetime. So I appreciate all the jobs that the charter schools are doing. My question now is from that first citizen that asked if Manatee County is doing the best in serving the students in need. Both of the schools in my community are Title I schools, and you can have all the standards that to follow and all the resources for the Title I office. But these students are not able to function in the same way for the same reasons that Just for Girls or Visible Man Academy has, because they come from a different household. They are not ready to come to school. They're not ready to come and learn the same way that other students, other families that have more structure. So it doubles their job to provide the structure in school. But they are charter schools. When we have regular elementary school, regular middle schools, Title I's trying to follow the same guidelines, but you have a totally different demographics in there. How are we able to provide the best? Even you provide a Title I office. That Title I office is just sending the resources. It's not really looking at our students as a whole. It's coming to the students that have issues at home or come way behind a kindergarten.
Could you wrap up your question, please?
That's my question. How is the Title I offering the resources but seeing the student as a whole? Because in my community, and very involved in both of my community schools and Title I school, I can see that those kids, those students, you can provide all the iReady possible. they're not going to be able, and they're not functioning.
We are out of time.
So, and I appreciate for the charters, and we can see, I'm sorry, that the demographics from the conversion charters from Rowlett or Just for Girls of Visible Academy, that's an issue, and I can see why Rowlett has gone for charter school. The demographics that they had, the community that they were able to offer, better for the arts.
I'll be glad to talk to you individually then if you're, yeah, okay.
We thank our dedicated speakers today. They were wonderful. I think we learned a lot about charter schools. I know I did. Hopefully parents will have more information to base their decisions upon. Maybe they'll consider charter when they are considering schools. Next month, in light of the passage of the Solar Energy Amendment on the primary ballot, next month we will talk about the expansion of solar energy options in our area, especially solar cooperatives that reduce the cost of equipment and energy for homeowners. That'll be on Monday, February 13th. Please circle your calendars. We thank the Bradenton Women's Club for the use of their hall. We also encourage you to visit the clubhouse this Saturday for their rummage sale from 9 to 12. You may pick up a bargain as well as help them with their fundraising. We also thank METV for taping the program and showing it again on their station and website. For the TV schedule or to watch the program online, go to www.metvweb.com. We also encourage you to join our league, and we have forms on the table. The more members we have, the more we can do. Thank you all for coming today, and another big hand for our wonderful speakers.